Hi, this is Katie with Happy Hearted Watercolors with part 3 of Winter Day. You'll notice this is a little different picture than what I had been working on in the effort of saving time and hopefully giving you a little less to have to sort through. I'm continuing on with another start that I'd made of this. And what you'll see that's different is there's a whole lot more going on here with the trees, but still the very same idea. And I'm going to now do some of the shadows that are happening with our trees onto the snow. Notice that I'm holding the brush quite near the end, and the reason I'm doing that is that makes the line that I'm painting much more irregular, and that makes it a good fit for trees that are casting a shadow onto the snow. And when they're casting this shadow, it's wavery because the snow is not an even surface. So as we carefully tuck these shadows back into the trees, we'll notice that the snow is not even. This has the same idea of composition with the focal point being up here on the upper right quadrant, and the trees' shadows are directing you towards that quadrant to look at. So our focal point is being advertised by the shadows that you see there. The other thing that is advertising the focal point are the rabbit tracks, which when I looked up, I found out there are 2 long little prints and then 2 short little prints with their back feet and then the front feet almost in a triangular shape here. And these are getting farther away, so it's just almost a little path like that. I think I want to go back and make these a little darker. And then they get lighter in the distance. Okay, I've got all my shadows taken care of. Just double checking with that. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to create a little bit of a rise in the snow with a shadow behind where the so I'm going to take a little bit of a line and then blend it out, soften that hard line there. Making sure to keep this as soft as I can. Now it looks like there's a little bit of a hill here. So now I'm going to do this one. Notice that I keep twisting my board. And the reason I do that is not to make you crazy, but in order to keep my hand in a position that makes it easy to create, in this case it's not a straight line, but to create the kind of line I want. And again, softening this hard line here with water and a dry brush to kind of pull that out. And here's another one right here. That goes off into the corner. And again, that's a lot of paint. So what I'm doing is pulling it off. And wiping the brush on the rag each time I pull some of the paint out. Now, just for fun, I want to see what happens if I put a little bit of gold right here on the top of that little knoll. I'm checking out my color. I'm just going to see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. I want it to look like the golden sunlight is catching on that. And again, we're wiping it, wiping the paint off the paper and then wiping it onto a rag. So that's not, I don't know if you can even see that. I think it'll add to the idea of it without screaming yellow paint or yellow snow. Grabbing a little more of my quinacridone gold. Just lightly touching. Rinsing my brush. Going back over it again. Now rinse my brush. Now I'm going to try to pull that off and lighten it. I'm going to try that with this. I don't know if that was effective or not. But we'll see when we're done. You can't always tell. At least I can't with my level of experience. I can't always tell what it's going to look like until I come back the next day and the elves have worked on it overnight. But what I do want to do, what I do want to add to that, is I do want to add the trees, or the leaves, excuse me, the grasses growing here, there, and everywhere. And I think I'm going to change that and go back to the dark brown that we were using. So it kind of fits in a little better. Put this right here. And the other thing was we're going to see little grasses growing out of this little spot where there's a divot. Oh, I forgot to do that shadow. Maybe I better do that now. I'm using a different brush, so I better get the same brush so it looks the same. Each brush looks a little different on the paper. So this shadow tucks in behind that tree. tucks in behind this tree. I'm not holding it very far back from the ferrule right now just because I want to make sure I can tuck the shadow back behind the tree. That got wild. Now I can start to wiggly squiggly. Oh, but that one doesn't wiggly squiggly. Gotta make sure you know where your shadows, what your shadow's from. I'll stop there because it kind of goes into that other tree. Okay. So, it's looking like that's a little redder. I don't know why. Alrighty, so here we go back with our grasses and our brown silhouettes. Little tiny grasses here in the background, bigger grasses here in the foreground. These are looking a little brown. I want them a little darker. This one has the grass shadow right behind that tree, so I want to make sure it looks like it's just going right back behind there. This also kind of grounds the tree here too, with a little bit of grass there to ground the tree so it looks like it's not floating. Floating trees are not what we really want to see. Okay, let's look and see what we've got here. I'm double checking each tree as I go along to make sure that it's got a shadow. And I'm just going left to right, making sure. The shadow melds into that one. Okay. Well, there might be other things that I do with this before I finish. You know, the one thing that's bothering me is right here, this tree. I don't know, maybe it would come out a little farther. Let's see what I can do with that. It's one of those foxholes I was telling you about earlier. I'm just going to bring the bottom part of it out a little farther here and out a little farther here so that it doesn't look like it's a cutout or a collage. Of course, then I want a little bit of the golden on there. That seemed to help. But a lot of what we're doing here is solving problems and looking at something and seeing, well, what looks right, what doesn't look right. Okay. Have fun.